This is a podcast about one woman's mission to help entrepreneurs and business owners write better business books. Each week, we tackle your writing excuses, because there are excuses too, and help you beat the blank page of doom so that you can write the book that'll grow your life and your business. Now here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the 1000 Authors Show. I'm Vicky Fraser and this is my husband Joe.
Hello.
Hello. And it's very nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's nice to have you back.
It's an honour.
It's not though, is it?
No.
Today we are drinking Near. Cheers.
Which is nearly beer.
Nearly beer. It's non-alcoholic beer, which I like very much.
It's not bad. It's all right. It's not beer.
I really like it. Okay, so what are we, Joe, what are you reading at the moment? Because this is how we start our podcast. What are you reading?
Book 10 of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. Book 10. Book 10.
Book 10 of 573.
Oh man, it's really got to get to an end soon. Really needs to finish.
It really does, because people are getting bored of this.
I don't think they are. I'm going to give them a full synopsis of the whole thing.
Oh God.
We could do a whole podcast on that.
You can do a whole podcast on that. I, on the other hand, am reading The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Brontë.
Oof.
I know, because that was the book group book for, I think it was actually for April. It's now May. I didn't read much in April. Hardly read anything.
Really?
Yeah, it took me a month to read 2 books.
Gosh.
More than a month. Yeah, it's really good. I was a bit like, I'm not sure, because it's kind of literature, and I wasn't sure I was in the... And I like literature. I wasn't sure I was in the mood for literature.
Mm-hmm. Bit serious, quite grown up.
Well, I thought it would be, but I love it. I love it. It was really ahead of its time. So Anne Brontë was the youngest Brontë sister, and she died when she was only 29, which is really sad.
Gosh.
And she only wrote a couple of books, but she wrote under the name Acton Bell, which is a kind of genderless pseudonym, really, because back in those days, female writers tended to be overlooked and generally shat upon. Mm-hmm. And so she'd written this book, and it's really, really good. And as I was reading it, because there's a really interesting foreword to the second edition, which Anne Brontë wrote herself. And it's a bit of a feminist essay, and I loved it because she was kind of talking about all sorts of stuff and talking about how there had been speculation on the sex of the writer Acton Bell. Mm-hmm. And, she was sort of saying in, quite sharp terms, I really don't see what difference it makes whether a man or woman wrote a book as to whether a book is any good. Mm-hmm. And it's just, she put it much more eloquently than that. But it was just really, I just really loved it. And so I read that and I was like, already love Anne Brontë, already love this book. And then I'm reading the book with that in mind. Because I've never read the book. I have a vague idea of what it's about. I think it's quite ahead of its time in terms of women's place in society. I think it's about domestic violence, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because back in those days, you just put up with it. You just got the crap beaten out of you, and that's that. But yeah, it was anyway. I love it, but the main character is actually a male character, and I was reading it and thinking, can I tell if a man or a woman has written this? I was like, I really can't, because I think, and I'm not sure that you always can. But I think it's interesting to read characters written. The main character. I think the main protagonist is often the same sex as the writer, mm-hmm. just because that's. I don't know.
Possibly more familiar.
Possibly more familiar. But I also, and this is just my opinion, I'll probably get hate mail for this, I don't think men tend to be as good at writing female characters as women are at writing male characters.
She breasted boobily across the room.
Men are generally not very good at writing sex scenes. Some are, obviously. # not all men. Mm-hmm. Fucking hell. So, yes, and so that's the fiction that I'm reading, and I'm loving it. Really, really, really enjoying it. And I am also reading non-fiction, of course. I'm reading This Is Your Brain on Music by Daniel Levitin.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't got very far in yet, but already think it's awesome. He's already answered the question, does when a tree falls in the woods with nobody to hear, does it make a sound? The answer is definitively no. Because what happens is that it makes sound waves, and sound is a psychological construct of your brain, or an animal's brain. So if there is no animal around to hear it, there is no sound. So that is the answer. Answered. Mm. What? We talked about this. It's like one of those things like, you are wrong. You just are. Because Anyway, read the book, find out why. I'm going to get you to read the book, so I think you'll enjoy it. It's super interesting. The guy used to be a record producer, has worked with all kinds of famous artists, and then went to become a neuroscientist and study music and the effect of music on your brain.
Cool.
So I'm really enjoying it. And the book that I just finished was Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson, which you absolutely should read, because I know that you get frustrated when people don't understand you. Like, why don't these people understand me? It's like, because you haven't communicated it in such a manner that they can understand. I really like that book though, because it reminded me of something that I already knew because I'm a writer and it's my responsibility to know. But it was like a proper reminder that everybody's different, obviously. You kind of know that. But the responsibility for somebody understanding something is on me as a communicator, not on the listener as a listener. You're going to argue with that as well now, aren't you?
Well,
Once again, you're wrong. Why? Why do you think I'm wrong about that?
Well, I just think it's if somebody wants to gather a piece of knowledge and they really want to figure it out and understand it and know it and absorb it, then, it might be up to them to put the majority of the effort in.
That's not the... I don't... Okay, I think that's a different thing that we're talking about, though. Because yes, if somebody wants to learn something, then they absolutely should put in the effort to learn it.
If I want to project a message out into random crowdfuls of people, then yes, it's my job to make that message understood by crowdfuls of people, because that's what I'm trying to achieve. So yeah, I agree with that.
But yeah, but also, but then you're saying that it's up to the student to understand, not up to the teacher to make themselves understood. And that, I 100% disagree with you on that. I 1,000% disagree with you. If I'm teaching somebody to do something and they don't understand it, that is my responsibility.
Well, I think if somebody has come to you and said, please teach me this thing that I wish I could do that you seem to be able to do, then I think it's on them.
I absolutely 100% disagree with you. It's not very often that we're diametrically opposed. I really strongly disagree with you.
I think the responsibility for the effective communication is down to the person who has the most motivation.
That's so not true.
Well, I don't mind you being wrong.
So, listeners, write in and let me know what you think, because especially if I am paying somebody to learn something, I expect them to communicate to me what I need to know in such a way that I can understand it.
Yes.
And when I'm putting together a course or a teaching and somebody says, I don't understand this, then I will figure out why. And sometimes it's because they're very visual people, and so I will put together something that's more visual for them. Sometimes it's because they like to read and maybe I haven't explained it properly.
Yeah, that's fine. But in that instance, your motivation is to, you're being paid for this information. You're being paid to convey this knowledge. So you have a motivation to do that well and effectively and tailor it for whoever you're trying to get the knowledge into. It's fine.
No. Yeah. So what?
That's okay. But I think the responsibility for getting the knowledge communicated is it's down to the person who needs it most, who's most motivated, who is, after the information.
I don't think we're talking about the same thing. I think you're assuming that there are people passively out there waiting for information to land in their brain and for them to magically be able to do something. That's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about...
But if I want to go and figure out what was going on in ancient Egypt, it's not... I can't kind of go and look at some hieroglyph and go, well, these guys didn't do a very good job of communicating because I can't understand a bloody word of it.
But
idiots. That's not on the Egyptians. That's on me.
But that's not the same thing at all. That's not the same thing that we're talking about at all.
Yeah.
Because their audience would have been able to understand it.
Yes, and it's not their fault if I don't understand it.
No, but if you were an ancient Egyptian who were reading their hieroglyphs and you couldn't understand what they'd written because they'd just brain vomited a big pile of shit, Donald Trump style, then that would absolutely be their fault. I'm not talking about you. We're not even talking about the same thing, and I think you're being deliberately obtuse and argumentative.
Totally not.
Because you are 100% wrong.
Well, sometimes when I talk with absolute clarity and sincerity and clear clear words and people don't understand me, that's absolutely their fault, and I'm not going to be moved from that position.
Right. Well, it's good to know that you're willing to grow as a person and a communicator and a teacher. That's good. Okay, let's move on because we've spent 10 minutes arguing about this now. But actually, this is, you know what? This is a really. I'm just now thinking of just changing the entire. I've got like a whole podcast planned up here.
We've been diverted.
But this is really important. It's a really important lesson that if you are writing a book or anything, if you're writing anything to impart information, it is absolutely down to you to make yourself understood in whatever way you need to do. So,
Yeah.
you are never going to move me from it. You are wrong. It's not very often that I will be like, I know I'm categorically right about this and you're categorically wrong. If somebody is deliberately being obtuse, then that's a different thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If somebody isn't paying attention, that's a different thing. But if somebody is paying attention and really trying to learn and they can't understand what I'm saying, that's my fault. This is why I put my book out to beta readers. So that they can come back and say, don't really understand what you were saying there. And, you know, all the times that you've read my shitty first drafts of stuff and you've been like, what are you trying to say here? Are you saying that I should come back and go, you're an idiot, that's not down to me, that's down to you?
No, not, absolutely not. I'm saying that the responsibility to communicate clearly, because you're the one who's motivated to do it, is on you. But I'm also saying there is responsibility on the listener or the reader to, you know, it's not all just going to fall in. They have a responsibility in the job as well.
They do.
And sometimes their responsibility is greater than the person who's communicating.
But that's not what you were saying a moment ago. That's different. Because, of course, the person who is listening has a responsibility to pay attention and to ask questions if they don't understand. And that's another big thing. It's like, if you don't understand something, say so.
But but you're saying it's absolutely the responsibility of the person who's doing the writing or the speaking or the teaching or whatever.
Yeah.
Always 100%. It's their responsibility.
Ultimate responsibility.
It's not 100%.
It is.
Because the listener has a responsibility. Surely.
To pay attention, but not
And to try and maybe read around the subject and maybe background dig and take things further.
But I'm not. That kind of goes without saying. I'm not talking about just like communicating a message to a bunch of people who don't care. I'm talking about any communication that you put out there is up to me as a communicator to make myself understood. It's not up to other people to jump through hoops so that they can understand.
And yeah, okay, I understand your position. It's fine. I understand your position.
Moving on. I think we've
I'll wrestle about it later.
No, we won't, because I'll lose. We will do a splits competition for it later.
Ugh.
Or shablam for it later.
Shablam.
Yeah. Shablam for me, shablam for me, shablam.
I'm out.
By the way, at some point, there are going to be photos of Joe in drag because I'm going to stick his eyebrows and we're going to drag him up. It's going to be great fun.
That was a strange swerve.
No, Shablam.
Oh, okay.
From Todrick Hall.
Okay.
From Drag Race.
By the way, Todrick. Hi, Todrick. Come and have a guest appearance on the podcast.
Oh, that would be awesome. I don't know if he's written a book. I'm going to invite RuPaul to come on the podcast at some point.
Amazing. He's definitely written a book.
Yeah, I've got it. It's over there. I've read it. Mm. It's a great book, actually. Right, anyway, the Quarantine Chronicles. We're halfway through the podcast. What have we been doing in quarantine, Joe?
What have we been doing?
Been growing vegetables.
Growing vegetables, yes.
I've planted peas, many peas. I've just potted out my beetroots. I've potted out some lettuces.
Thrown some more asparagus in.
Oh yeah, new asparagus crowns, which look like giant spidery aliens. And courgettes, which grow so quickly. I put courgette seeds in like 3 or 4 days ago and they're already blooming. It's very cool. I love growing stuff. It's like people talk about like miracles and blah, blah, blah. And I just think the act of putting a seed in a pot full of soil and then watering it, and then a few days later, a plant grows, and then a bit after that, you can eat food off it.
It's weird.
That's incredible. That's like, what?
It's pretty strange. And I have been, I've been doing all kinds of things. I've been working on an artificially intelligent bat detection camera.
Bat it.
Bat it. been working on an EBT, elevated body temperature system for people entering and exiting buildings and things.
That's really cool.
That's pretty cool.
Can we go back to Bat It though?
Bat It, yeah, sure.
And talk about how your AI could distinguish me from a bat.
Yes, Vicky tried to fool it by pretending to be a bat. It's basically based around a thermal camera and some artificial intelligence that we're working on.
That was great. I was just like...
So Vicky pretended to be a bat because there were no bats around on one of the nights when I was running it. And it successfully went, that's a person.
I was a little bit affronted, to be honest, because I thought my bat impression was pretty cool.
Sorry about that.
So bats without hats, rats without holes.
Yes, we pointed the bat detection device at the chicken coop and discovered that the place was calling with rats every time we were looking at it.
No, it's not that bad. You're making that sound really bad. We don't leave the chicken food in the run anymore because obviously we don't want to be feeding a colony of rats. We think because of all of the floods that happened earlier this year, the rats have come out of their holes and they've all moved. They've moved a little bit. And was it like a solid 20 seconds between you leaving the chicken coop and the rats appearing?
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Maybe we should do something about that.
So we have got rid of their whole... Well, I say you did. You put some slabs on.
A few more flagstones and things in areas to prevent access to the chicken run.
Because actually, it's like, we live in the country and wherever you live, there literally are rats within a few feet of you. Most of the time, you will not know they're there. And as long as they're not in my house and not causing trouble, I don't care.
Yeah, but we don't want to be supporting a colony. We don't want to. Well,
I don't want to be. Definitely don't want to be feeding them.
Don't want to be feeding them. Don't want to be supporting a colony of rats.
No, but there are always going to be rats. Yeah. They live in the compost heap. They like it because it's warm in there, and there's grubs and things they can eat.
Rotting veg and whatnot.
Yeah. So so that's what. Oh, well, we did a family Zoom pub quiz last night.
Yeah,
that was really fun.
That was cool.
And we've got some friend games planned for Zoom, which will be fun too. We're going to do a murder mystery.
Yep, and we're looking forward.
Hi, Kendra and Jen.
Hi, Kendra and Jen. Looking forward to the online Eurovision in a few weeks.
Oh, that's going to be great fun. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. It's going to be fun.
And so this episode
has totally gone by the by.
It's totally gone by the by, and I think I'm just going to make this, because we haven't talked about any of the things that I planned out, which is annoying, frankly.
Sorry. That's what happens when you bring me in and I disagree with you.
Yeah, I don't mind you disagreeing with me because it was a good debate and now everybody can see how right I am.
Well, and if anybody would like to agree with me, then please feel free to send me an email.
Can I read your email out?
I don't actually have one.
Yes, you do.
Well, I do. I have a work one, but that's not really the right thing, is it?
If you email joe@vickyfraser.com, I don't know if it'll get to him or not, frankly. If you agree with him, it probably won't reach him. I will censor it. I won't. Censorship is bad, okay? We were trying to figure out what series to do for a podcast. Obviously, we've just done the 7 Deadly Sins series. A few years ago, we did the highly successful and popular critically acclaimed hostage negotiation series.
Yeah.
People were, genuinely concerned about the fate of the chickens. Yeah. And so we were like, what series could we do for the podcast? And we've come up with, actually, you came up with a couple of really good ones. So we're going to plan out some little mini series. We shall do that. But this one was supposed to be the first in the writing excuses series, so I've got it all planned out. But honestly, I think what we were talking about earlier with communication responsibilities is just quite a good thing to end on, I think. This could be a nice short podcast this week, because we've blathered on enough, frankly.
To no purpose whatsoever.
No, to a good purpose, because if you are, and this is all about writing books, so if you are writing a book, and it is 100% your responsibility to make sure that you can be as well understood as possible. It's like, and kind of take into account the fact that different people, taking into account your audience, this is really important. And so thinking about who you're writing for. So if I was writing for an audience of engineers, like Joe, who are maybe quite blue, if we're talking about disc profiles.
Blue? What does that mean?
You need to read Surrounded by Idiots. So if they're very kind of matter of fact and factual and blah, 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 they're not probably going to be interested in touchy-feely stories. They're going to be interested in...
I don't mind a good anecdote.
No, you're not totally blue, that's why. You're kind of yellowy as well.
I do not think these words mean what you think they mean.
They do. Inconceivable. If you get that movie reference, then you get extra points. Oh, by the way, does anybody recognise the film that Joe has on his chest? Answers on a postcard or an email. Yeah, so if you're writing a book, consider your audience. What are they interested in? What will they respond to? Do they want you to get straight to the point, or do they want you to tell a little story to ease them into it? Because there are certain types of people who don't want a load of preamble.
Just tell me.
Just tell me the thing. Tell me the thing, tell me how to do it. Which is why I always think it's really interesting in my Bookaholics Anonymous Club, people's different opinions on books. And quite often the opinions differ because of the style of writing rather than because of the content of the book. Mm-hmm. And so they'll be like, oh, they could have, I wasn't really interested in like the first 20 pages. And actually even the Surrounded by Idiots book, I almost gave up reading it because the first 20 pages or so, I was just like, ugh, I'm not really interested in this. But then a couple of people, when we had the Bookaholics call, because I hadn't finished it by the time we had the call, were like, no, it's really good. And like they gave their takeaways and I thought, that does sound really good. And so I kind of went back and persevered. But that's a really good lesson to take away from this, is that you need to make sure that your first 20 pages or so are really good.
They're not going to chase people off.
And they're not going to chase people off, because if it hadn't been for the book club, that I wouldn't have got through the rest of the book and I would have missed some really valuable learning stuff and really interesting stories and anecdotes and things. So couple of lessons there. It's up to you to make yourself understood, and it is. And be interesting when you're writing to whatever your audience thinks they're interested in. Right, I think on that note, let's finish. And now I have a whole other podcast planned out.
One plan ahead. Nice.
One plan ahead. And yeah, I don't really know what the takeaway is. Whatever. Stay safe. Stay home.
Yeah. Good luck.
Good luck.
Look after yourselves.
Don't fuck it up.
Don't fuck it up.
So next week we will, I don't know what the hell we'll be doing. We may be doing the Writing Excuses series. I may decide to go with one of Joe's suggestions for a series. Who knows? Who knows?
What colour will your hair be?
My hair? My hair will be bluer than it is right now. I've got terrible roots, look, if you're looking. Oh, that's why I'm wearing a hat. I'm wearing a really cute hat, which is, good for being a cute hat, but mostly it's to cover my terrible hair up. And Joe's hair,
Might be green by then.
Maybe lime green by then. We'll see. Tune in. Find out. In the meantime, what's going on in my world? Oh man, I had so many plans and coronavirus has just killed just my ability to think and do stuff, and it's been very frustrating. So I've just finished the really shittiest 2 weeks I've had for quite a long time. Haven't had a day off in a month. I had most of today off, which is nice.
That was nice.
And then I got yelled at.
By some random dude in our back garden.
Stupid little man.
Jesus.
Yeah, who was trespassing in our garden and just raised his voice at me, at which point I was trying to nicely explain to him that he's not on the footpath. The footpath is up at the top of our garden, which is fine. But it's had a landslide, so it's only half the footpath left. And he was like absolutely insistent that his map was correct and he was on a footpath. And I was like trying to explain to him and he kept talking over me. And in the end, I just lost patience. I was like, you know what? Piss off out of my garden. And I found out he lives in the village. He's well known for being a dick. Yeah. So if you're listening to this podcast, Mr. Dick, stay out of my garden because I'll have the water pistol next time. So yeah, that was fun. It was fun to fun. What's that face for?
Well done. I'm glad you swore at him a bit. Told him to go away.
The thing is though, it took quite a long time for me to get to the swear words because I was like, just let me explain,
I've made a mistake.
You've made a mistake, yeah. I'm just going to explain to you what's going on with the footpath and why down here is not a good place and blah, blah, blah. And it was at the point where he raised his voice at me in my own garden that I lost my shit. I was like, right, get out. So yeah, that was fun. Yeah, don't trespass in people's gardens and then yell at them. Really, don't do that.
Not cool.
Not cool. So yeah, I'm still planning my live book writing course. I'm still planning to start it on June the 1st. Who knows if that will happen?
Yes, it will.
It will. I mean, it'll happen. I don't know if it's going to happen on June the 1st because honestly, I'm done with setting myself stressful shit to do. So
It might get pushed back a week or two.
Might get pushed back a month or two. Stay tuned. Probably by now you're like, I couldn't give a shut up about your stupid course. But actually, it's going to be a really great course and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah.
So there you go. If you've listened to every episode, email me with your postal address and I will send you a special superfan gift.
Nice.
And if you like this podcast, go and subscribe on iTunes and rate us and review us.
5 stars.
If you don't like this podcast, other podcasts are available. And if you know someone who will enjoy this, please share this with them. Send them a link. Send them to moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast. And we'll be back same time next week with some more nonsense.
If this was your first experience of this podcast, I would suggest you listen to another couple of episodes because this one was pretty chaotic.
That kind of suggests that other episodes are more organised. But, well, they are.
A little bit more organised.
Yeah. Listen to an interview one. They tend to be the good ones.
Charming.
With other people.
Jesus.
That was
Cheers.
my smarty laugh. No, you're amazing. Everybody loves you best, Joe. Everybody loves you best. Right, I'm going. Bye.
Right, bye. Thanks for listening. You can find links and show notes on the website at moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast, where you can also sign up for the best daily emails in the multiverse and find loads of free resources to help you write your book. We'll be back the same time next week with more tales from the book writing trenches and the latest on what the tiny sheeps have been up to.